April 16th, 1945. 30 miles off Okinawa, a single American destroyer is isolated on the edge of the war's last great killing zone. By every calculation, this ship should have gone under. This should have sunk her. She was hit by 6 kamikazes, struck by 4 bomb blasts, her rudder jammed, and her ammunition was moments from exploding. The math said survival was impossible. So why did she not sink? And what did that reveal about the point where Japan's final weapon stopped working? Radar picket duty meant isolation by design. USS Laffey was stationed 30 miles northwest of Okinawa, far ahead of the main fleet. This gap was deliberate. A buffer of open sea meant to give the Allied Armada early warning when Japanese planes left the coast. On the map, each picket station was a lonely dot, exposed on all sides. Laffey was assigned Station 1, the outermost post on April 16, 1945. Her SG radar, mounted high on the mast, could detect low-flying aircraft at distances up to 15 miles. That early warning was critical. Every blip on the screen might mean minutes to scramble a response or just seconds before impact. But this kind of coverage came at a cost. Destroyers like Laffey were built for speed and maneuver, not armor. Out here, there was no immediate support from battleships or carriers. The ship's layered anti-aircraft suite, 5-inch guns, quad 40mm Bofors, and rapid-firing 20mm Oerlikons formed a moving wall of fire, but the volume of sky was too much for any one vessel to cover alone. The radar picket line became a magnet for attack, drawing the first and fiercest blows before the enemy reached the main fleet. In these waters, a destroyer's survival depended on seconds, skill, and the hope that its systems would hold. Laffey's crew knew the risk. Out on the edge, they were the fleet's eyes, and the first to be targeted when the enemy came. Japanese planners saw the radar picket destroyers as the perfect prey. Doctrine called for overwhelming force, massed kamikaze sorties, each pilot trained to strike fast and low, aiming for the thin-skinned hulls of ships like Laffey. In the months leading up to Okinawa, staff officers in the 5th Air Fleet wrote that destroyers were the ideal target, isolated, lightly armored, and critical to the American fleet's defense. Every chart, every pre-mission briefing circled those lonely dots on the map. The scale of commitment was staggering. During the Okinawa campaign, nearly 1,900 kamikaze sorties launched against the Allied invasion force. By April 16th, waves of planes, Vals, Judys, and Oscars were dispatched with one goal: break the picket line and open the door for further attacks on the carriers and transports behind it. Pilots expected to die, but they also expected results. Early reports from previous battles had promised quick kills, easy victories against ships that could not possibly stand up to a determined suicide dive. The math favored the attacker, at least on paper. A single hit on a destroyer often meant the end. Japanese briefings stressed this point. One plane, one ship. As the operation unfolded, the assumption was simple. Each run would claim another destroyer. For the pilots strapping in that morning, the pickets were not just vulnerable. They were meant to be doomed. At 0830, the first wave broke from the clouds, dozens of blips racing toward Laffey's position. The bridge snapped out orders. Gunners locked hands to triggers. Every mount tracked targets, barrels swinging, eyes burned from cordite and wind. The first Judy dove steep and fast. It did not make it. Neither did the second. 7 planes in, 7 shot down. 12 minutes of near-perfect defense. Crew shouted above the roar. 8 for 8. Keep firing. The air stank of oil and sweat. Hot brass clattered underfoot. But the sky kept sending more. Then a bomb burst close aboard. Shrapnel cut through the mast, and the SG radar went dead. In seconds, the ship's eyes were gone. Gunners and lookouts now relied on instinct, shouts, and the flash of sunlight on wings. The next Val came in low, clipping the starboard quarter, spraying burning fuel across the deck. A gun captain ducked a misfire. A split second spared his life. The radio mast sagged, trailing wires, but no one stopped firing. 2 minutes later, another plane crashed through a cluster of 20mm mounts aft. 3 guns destroyed. 6 men killed where they stood. The bomb detonated in the after magazine, sending a shockwave through the hull. The rudder locked hard to port. Laffey began to circle, engines straining, decks slick with gasoline. Orders snapped from the bridge: speed up, slow down, anything to throw off the next attacker. Gunners shouted over the noise. She is still afloat. But every man knew this should have sunk her, and another plane was already lining up its run. The rudder was jammed hard to port, locked at 26 degrees. Laffey could do nothing but circle, trapped in a tight, predictable loop. Every gunner knew what that meant. With steering gone, the ship's path became a bullseye, each revolution bringing the same battered quarter into the line of fire. Engines strained as the bridge ordered bursts of speed, then sudden slowdowns, anything to throw off the next attacker's aim. But the circle held. The enemy could time their dives, adjust their approach, and line up for a clean shot. This was the nightmare scenario every destroyer captain dreaded. Below decks, another crisis was building. The bomb that jammed the rudder had detonated in the aft 20mm magazine. Heat and fire sent ammunition cooking off, rounds exploding in their racks, fragments ricocheting through wreckage. The risk was plain. If the fire reached the main magazine, the entire stern could go up in a single shattering blast. Commander Frederick Becton faced a choice with no good options. Abandon ship and the wounded would be left behind. Stay, and a magazine explosion could kill everyone topside. Becton gave the order. Flood magazine 53. Seawater rushed in, dousing the threat before it could ignite the rest of the ammunition. Damage control teams crawled through choking smoke, sealing hatches, dragging hoses, heaving hot shells overboard by hand. The air stank of burning fuel and cordite. Fires raged unchecked in places no one could reach. The rudder was gone. The guns were burning. The ship circled, engines howling, still under attack. Each second stretched. Every new blast threatened to finish what the last one started. This should have sunk her. By the time the last enemy plane fell away, the sky was empty, but the ship was barely recognizable. Fires still smoldered in ruined gun mounts. Decks were slick with fuel and blood. The first combat air patrol fighters circled overhead, too late to stop the worst, but just in time to guarantee no more attackers would break through. On Laffey's battered decks, crew dragged hoses and searched for wounded among the twisted metal. 32 men were dead. 71 more were wounded, some beyond recognition. Survival on paper, but the cost was written in names and silence. 22 planes attacked Laffey that morning. 12 were kamikazes. Each pilot was trained for a single strike. The crew shot down 8, maybe 9, before the last wave broke off. For every aircraft destroyed, another came on. The ship refused to go under. The numbers tell their own story. 10 direct hits, yet Laffey survived. Naval historians call this the moment the arithmetic broke. Japan lost pilots and planes it could not replace, while the destroyer, battered and burning, remained afloat. The suicide strategy had reached its breaking point. Today, precision weapons and asymmetric tactics still promise quick victories. The lesson endures. No strategy, however desperate, can ignore the hard limits of loss versus gain. Laffey's ordeal exposes a truth modern planners cannot escape. When the numbers stop adding up, hope alone will not change the outcome.